Hello friends, Sarah Sunstone here, and welcome back to Thinking Out Loud. In today's episode, I'll be sharing my thoughts on the top 5 features I would like to see in Witchbrook, a spellbinding life simulation game which is releasing later this year. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. Now, the first thing I need to see in Witchbrook is some sort of interaction with animals. Ideally, this would be in the form of having our own pet or familiar, like a cat, a dog, a toad, or even a bird, for example. Now, if we were to have a pet or familiar, some sort of function or utility for the creatures would also be really nice. Maybe they could locate different secrets around the world, pick up resources to help us out, scout out different folks around town who we might need to pay a visit to, or at the very least, accompany us on our adventures. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but I am always a little bit disappointed when you do have a pet in a game and all they can do is hang out at your house. I think it'd be really lovely too if we could care for them in some way, not in like a high maintenance sense by any means, but if we could give them little treats. And of course, all the pets. Some things on my vision board for pets or familiars would be in the realm of cosmetics, so I would love to be able to get them like little hats, little accessories, or even just pick from different fur or like feather colors or patterns. And if we could even get them little items that they could interact with, like toys, to have at our home, I think that would just be incredible. Fields of Mystria actually has this, where you can get little like chicken seesaws for your ranch animals, or like little bouncy balls that the cows can play with, alongside different accessories for them. And I think that is just such a charming and precious feature that I would absolutely love to see in Witchbrook. If none of this ends up being part of the game, I would at the very least like to interact with the wildlife found around the world. There's been so much shown in the different gameplay clips and trailers we've seen, and so it would be nice to interact with some of them in some way. There was also that wolf symbol that was shown on the in-game hotbar as like one of the abilities we might have, so this could indicate something animal related. Animal communication would be really interesting, though I don't know how that would impact our gameplay or how it would be implemented, but the point is I love animals and I will happily welcome any features related to our interactions with them. Now, one thing that we actually have seen in the trailer that is very mysterious is the hatching of a baby dragon. Now, imagine if we could actually have our own baby dragons, or maybe more realistically, help find this one a home. We're definitely gonna have to stay tuned to find out what is going on here. But in the meantime, if you love dragons, then you might be interested to hear about Dragon Song Tavern, who very kindly sponsored this portion of today's video. This cozy yet adventurous title invites players of all ages to experience the story of 2 siblings and a little dragon. Together, you'll run a coastal tavern on a picturesque seaside property. You can create your own character, start a bountiful farm, kick back with some fishing, and even set sail to discover unknown worlds and forgotten myths. After collecting all sorts of resources on your adventures, return home to brew wine, craft goods, cook up recipes, and keep your tavern running fueled with your own creations. What's more is that the full version of the game brings new maps to explore, new outfits to wear, co-op gameplay to enjoy with loved ones, and even an adorable pet system. Dragon Song Tavern is releasing on September 24th with a 20% launch discount available until October 8th. Plus, players who purchase the game during the early access period will be upgraded to the Deluxe Edition completely for free, just to thank them for all their support. This edition includes new outfits, new furniture, and more. Be sure to wishlist Dragon Song Tavern on Steam if you're interested, and please visit the link in the description to learn more. And now, back to Witchbrook. The next thing I need to see are lots of options for customization. While we do know that we'll be able to customize our own witchy character, we don't yet know exactly to what extent. But I do have pretty high hopes for the character creator itself, simply due to the wide variety of NPCs we've seen populating the world. What I'm less certain of is the amount of cosmetic items we'll have access to for further expressing ourselves in the form of clothes, accessories, and more. I would absolutely love to see lots of variety for clothing, some that fit the academic aesthetic and others for when you're out in the town. I'm also hoping to see different styles for all seasons so we can, dress accordingly depending on the weather, time of day, and occasion. Now, we do know there is the Calico clothing boutique in Mossport, so we'll probably get at least some of our clothes here, if not most of them. This is where Hana works and also lives. There's definitely a possibility that there could be other places to get clothing from, but this is the only clothing shop so far to be confirmed. I would also love to see lots of variety for witch hats because this is literally a magical witch game. So I feel like this is one of the like iconic items to express yourself with. There has been mention of a school shop, and we don't really know what will be available here for sale, but witch hats could be one of the options. And while I'm not sure there would be any wand customization simply because the wands will be very, very small, I would love to see some broom customization. And I am hopeful for this because we have seen multiple different designs, actually quite a few different designs with, different colored bristles and uniquely shaped handles. Now, ideally, I would love to be able to not only purchase these different cosmetic items, but also earn them through completing different quests and maybe even from random loot or like treasure chests around the world. There's something really satisfying to me about unlocking like a special skin or special cosmetic through this one little side quest or something. I always think that's so rewarding and exciting. But another place I would like to see unique clothes and accessories would actually be at different events and festivals. I think it's always really lovely when you can bring home like a little souvenir, whether it be a wearable or like a placeable item from the different community events. Now, I'm hoping we'll learn more about all of this soon, since the team did share that they'll be revealing more on character customization in the next developer blog. So as always, please make sure to subscribe to my channel with your notifications on to stay in the loop, because I will definitely be covering future developer blogs on the channel to keep you informed. Now, the third thing I really need to see in Witchbrook would be smooth and flexible design mechanics alongside a variety of furniture and decor. So in Witchbrook, we will have our own cozy woodland cottage to decorate, and here we'll also be able to keep a garden. Now, it looks like this cottage will be 2 floors minimum, with 2 main rooms and an entrance on the main floor, though we don't yet know what the upstairs space looks like. We also don't know if this is an upgraded version of our house and if our starter house will be a little bit smaller, or if we could even further upgrade it from this state. Now, so far, based on what we've seen of the design mechanics, it doesn't look like we're going to be able to place furniture on angles, which I am okay with for games that are this like top-down isometric kind of perspective. I'm okay with no angles, but what I do need to see is the ability to center items. It's kind of difficult to tell, but so far the placement does look promising. There's honestly nothing more frustrating in a game than like not being able to center one item with another, or even just to stagger items so you can decorate in like a layered way, especially with small clutter items. In my experience, in order for this to be able to happen, items need to be placeable a half tile away from each other rather than a full tile, at least if it's going to be locked onto a grid. And so far it does seem like that is the case here, just literally based on this one single clip of the table moving. Now, it does also appear that we can put stuff on stuff, which is another thing that is really important to me because I love, decorating with little knickknacks and little clutter items. Of course, I'm also hoping that there will be a nice variety of different types of furniture and different aesthetics, so everybody can kind of have a space that really feels like their own and reflects their own personal style and taste and interests. This could definitely be achieved by having like a wide variety of furniture to begin with, but also having like different color variants of the same items. I'm also very curious about the garden space that we'll have at our home, and I'm wondering if this is actually it. Regardless of what the space ultimately looks like, I'm curious to know if there will be any opportunity for customization here, if we'll be able to place any furniture or decorations out here, or if it's really just to use for growing different crops. Of course, I'm also curious to know if we'll be able to change anything about the exterior of our home, whether that be just, like the siding, the shingles on the roof, the window shape or design, or like anything like that. I'm okay if there isn't that level of customization, but I do really hope there's lots of different placeable items so that, again, we can really make that inside space one that feels like our own, especially because I feel like designing and decorating in games is something that can just keep you so engaged over time, which leads us into the next thing that I would really love to see in Witchbrook, which is a somewhat open end game with a continuously satisfying gameplay loop. So this could honestly be achieved through a number of different ways. So there's no like one answer for what this needs to be for Witchbrook. It has been confirmed that gameplay will continue through life after school. So once you graduate at Witchbrook College, it's not like you're going to get credits and be done. You're also going to take everything you've learned in school and apply that to real life, out in the town and completing jobs and just kind of living life. But exactly what that looks like from a gameplay standpoint and what kind of a gameplay loop that has will definitely be interesting to see. The different jobs seem really interesting and fun to complete. complete. And I really love that there's going to be more of a personal kind of feeling to these jobs. So it's not just simply that you're going to pick up a quest and then like immediately go to complete it and check it off like a to-do list. Yes, you will be picking up quests from probably many different sources, but definitely via bulletin board posts. But then you're actually going to be going to the person's home or to meet up with that person who posted the request and actually have a conversation with them to get a better idea of what exactly they need and how you can help them. And then you're going to go out and like do whatever action you need to do to help them out, whether that be collect some ingredients, brew a potion, read the constellations in the sky. It could really be anything. And honestly, I hope that in some cases it's going to be a combination of things. And then once you've accomplished whatever it is you've set out to do, then you will go back to that person and, turn in the quest with them. So this definitely seems like one of the main things that we could be continuing to do at that kind of end game space in our gameplay. So I do think the depth and variety of these jobs and quests will kind of make or break whether or not that's something that is still fun. Now, I do also wonder about different events and festivals. How dynamic will they be, and will they evolve over the years? In some games, I feel like very little to no motivation to go back and replay the festivals year after year. Like it gets to a point where it's just like, okay, like I don't need to go to that anymore. Like unless I want to do this one game or like pick up this one thing, it's very skippable. So I would like to see in a perfect world, these festivals have some evolution over the years. So maybe there could be something as simple as a couple new items at the shops each year, or like new prizes to win in the mini games, or new chance encounters, just even like a quest in later game that's only available at that festival later on after it's, taken place over a number of years. Just things like that could be, an interesting way to address the end game. Even just thinking about mini games, I don't know if there will be any mini games at all in Witchbrook. I mean, I'm sure there will be like the skill check type mini games for like crafting and potion brewing and fishing and stuff like that. But I mean like dedicated mini games that you're playing just for the fun of playing, or maybe to earn some kind of like tokens, like arcade tokens or prizes or something like that. If games have really fun mini games, sometimes that can keep you playing like so much longer than you'd expect. Like if there's a good game of Witchbrook Mahjong or Pop the Balloon minigame or just something like that, I could see myself booting up the game just to play that minigame within the game. Of course, when we talk the end game, I'm also super curious to know what the team's plans are for the long run. Like, what is their vision? Is this a game that they plan to ship out, like, fully finished, ready to go? This is this, we're printing it, we're done, we're moving on to our next project? With maybe, some like minor bug fixes and adjustments after launch? Or is this a game that they plan to bring periodic free updates to, with maybe new outfits, new quest lines, new events, new mini games? The list could go on and on. I think there's definitely pros and cons to either decision, but if the game really hits and really lands and folks really, really love it, then I definitely could see the benefit of continuing to expand on it, especially after, waiting like 10 years for this game. I don't think it would hurt to support it for a little bit after launch if that's in alignment with the team's goals. Now, I also want to be completely clear that it is okay to stop playing games. I do think in the current landscape of video games, sometimes it feels like we need to just continue to perpetually play our favorite games forever and ever and ever. And that can be really fun, but it's also okay to just be like done with the game out at some point and move on to the next. But honestly, in the case of Witchbrook, I would really, really love for this to be one of those games that is more open-ended with a really good gameplay loop and lots of things to continue doing so we can continue to enjoy it. And finally, the last thing I really need to see in Witchbrook is good co-op gameplay. So Witchbrook will offer online co-op gameplay for up to 4 total players, so yourself and 3 friends. The team has shared that players will be able to race together on brooms, hone spellcrafting know-how, or just enjoy hanging out in the beautiful town of Mossport. Of course, this all sounds lovely. However, the way in which co-op is implemented will be a huge determining factor for whether or not it ends up being part of my personal Witchbrook experience. Now, the best case scenario here with 4-player co-op is that the features are implemented similarly to Luma Island, where any of your friends can drop in and out on the same save file to join your adventures and also start their own. Ideally, we would each have our own quest to complete. However, we would be able to still work together to collect resources and complete projects. It would also be so adorable if we could take classes together, and I wonder if we would all share the same cottage or have our own. Now, my fear is that the multiplayer system will be more akin to one like Coral Islands, where you're limited to progressing your save file profile with the exact same people, and there's no room to change this up. Now, this might be more specific to my personal situation of having a lovely, large community who I'd love to share these gameplay experiences with, because unfortunately, if there's no flexibility of being able to switch up friends that I'm playing with, then it's basically impossible to have a shared community farm in the case of Coral Island, or a shared Magic Academy experience in the case of Witchbrook. So if the Witchbrook co-op system is set up like this, then, it might be ideal for partners, friends, or family who you can regularly commit to sharing the experience with, but it's just not ideal for bigger groups, or those who might just want a lower commitment experience. So you can drop in and drop out, and you can also do your own thing. Now, there is also an in-between option where it's more of a town visit, like in Animal Crossing New Horizons, where your friends can come visit your Witchbrook and do certain activities together. Like, you can brew potions, you could explore, you could just enjoy the small moments. And if this were the system, then perhaps you could still share items and resources, but then your friends would go back to their academic life to continue their own Witchbrook story. Of course, ultimately, the co-op features in Witchbrook could be a combination of any of these things or something completely different, and only time will tell. But it will also be interesting to see if cross-platform play will be available, since the game is releasing on PC via Steam, on Xbox, on Nintendo Switch, and Nintendo Switch 2. So this could also be a huge factor that might inhibit friends from playing together depending on if it's implemented and if your friends are on the same platform as you or on a different one. And speaking of platforms, I have one honorable mention because I would absolutely love to see a physical edition of the game for Nintendo Switch, Nintendo Switch 2, and a PlayStation 5 version, because as of right now, PlayStation is the only platform missing, and it is my favorite platform, so I would love to see a PS5 version, and especially a PS5 physical version. But there you have it, friends. Those are just some of the many things, honestly, that I would love to see in Witchbrook when the game releases later this year. But please let me know down in the comments, what would you like to see? Anything and everything. I always love hearing from you. And with all that being said, thank you so much for watching. I love you all, and until next time, take care.